Imagine for a minute you're about to pitch a fresh idea to an anime studio and want to go to the Isekai route. Now here is something we haven't seen before. Trust me, it's a game changer. It's a guy transported into another world, but this time, he has a shield! Original anime incoming! Okay, jokes aside, there are some good things to take away from the Rising of the Shield hero. I like the first episode's second half where a hero is flat broke and pissed on by the monarchy and citizens because he's an isekai protagonist. The artwork and animation is solid, and the OST is pretty good to boot. But I won't lie, I'm not digging the plot too much, and from first impressions, the slave angle is going to be one of those talking points that people are going to be okay with or just turned off by. I mean, it's a lot better than actual slavery, but here's hoping that the show can at least find a good enough excuse to allow something egregious in the story. Then again, the slave thing isn't the first time we've seen this in an isekai. How Not to Summon a Demon Lord had two potential slavers become actual slaves to the protagonist in a fun, albeit horny time. The Great Tomb of Nazarick houses several slaves under the rule of Ainzul Gon and Overlord, and I don't know where Master of Ragnarok and Blessed of Einherjar fits in the use of slaves as decorations and a harem, but there are way more issues in this show that slavery isn't actually a big deal anymore. The isekai genre is in trouble, but that's to be expected. There's only so many times that random citizens in Japan can be teleported away from their loved ones before the police and army have to get involved. Light novels and manga are spewing out multitudes of isekai stories, all with a different hook to try and top the rest. There is one where everyone is trapped in an MMO, two series that have a main cast trapped in an MMO, and almost a third of released series where someone is trapped in an MMO, but this time he's overpowered. Oh, okay. But he has a crew of cute, adorable hotties that he will never have sex with despite... Okay. But what if the protagonist has to have sex but not actually have sex as part of the game? Sure, we'll give Conception a gold medal in originality. But we're gonna take it away cause it's fucking Conception. Yeah, you get where I'm going at though, right? So in this video today, I'm looking at the hot trend that is starting to lose what made it special to begin with, and that despite the efforts of Shield Hero and Slime, they aren't really helping in the grand scheme of things. Somewhat. What needs to be changed and what needs to be abandoned so that the flow of creativity doesn't just evaporate. Breaking the limits of the isekai genre. Now, to start things off, isekai are generally inspired by the simple desire to escape everyday life and to go to another plane of existence to be something you are not. The audience is very much aimed for young adults or teenagers who are generally lonely, secluded pervs that just want to have their wishes come true. Not that I'm one of them. With the rise in popularity of shows like Sword Art Online, Overlord, and Re:Zero, the main hero, or main villain in Ainz's case, have some semblance to the ordinary Japanese citizen. Messy black hair, sweats, and sleep deprivation are the genetic makeup of the isekai protagonist. They have traits that girls find attractive, somehow, and they have a unique charisma to them that drives people and even the governing power to take notice of. They are basically vehicles for the viewer to step into, to live the ideal life that a nerd can only dream of in his romanticized image. Kirito is the first that comes to mind, and he, along with others, represent the first key point in our discussion. Now set aside delusions and ask yourself this. Does this character have anything else other than being just the main character? Substance, development, a dark side, something that can make him stand out. Most of the time, they don't. Their personalities are always the same. They are cookie-cutter nice guys with powers beyond their fellow peers and who can't seem to grasp the idea that cute girls are thirsty as fuck for them. Kirito, Momonga, and yes, even Shield Hero are the symbols of this trope. While some have their defining characteristics, notably Naofumi's bitterness and cold demeanor, the rest can simply be summed up as putting a Snapchat filter over yourself. Bordering on narcissism, isekai protagonists are also kinda unrealistic. They don't act or feel like socially inept human beings, which is why, in a strange twist of fate, it's usually the heroes with the most screwed up character qualities that are the best at it. Funny as someone like Kazuma from Konosuba is, he has a lot more personality and motivation than almost half of the roster that preceded him or came after him. He is a shut-in like the rest, but he's also an asshat who manipulates and harasses others for his amusement, and whose key goal is less about saving the world and more about cashing out and living a peaceful life. He tries enviously to take the easy way out, which proceeds with painful consequences almost every time. but he still tries to exude a level of superiority above his party whenever he or they fuck up in order to stay leader of the pack. Now, there is much to like about him, and he has a good sense of honesty and humility, but damn, is he mean-spirited. And guess what? So are most people who are shut-ins. Despite being a somewhat comedic take on the trapped in another world genre, Konosuba is the best example, in my opinion anyway, of good character writing by showing us that no matter how you want to portray yourself, you are still personified as a sniveling coward who tries to pull out as soon as they get in, aka a loser. Wow, I feel so defeated. Another different out-of-the-box protagonist is Natsuki Subaru from Re:Zero, who has the best time ever in his fantasy world. Yeah, nope, he gets fucked over and over and over and over and over and over. Stop. Similar to Naofumi and Kazuma, he is ignorant and stubborn to the idea that being in a new world can sate his wants and needs, when in cold fashion it takes a giant shit on him. He does try to remain loyal to his comrades and love interests, but at the same time, his cockiness and ego can put him into the worst scenarios, whether small scale like getting his ass kicked, or seeing all his friends die one by one, including Emilia because... Wait, what's a REM? Give me a second here. It's like twisting in my mind right now. Come on, just REM. Oh, I get it! No, I don't. How you holding up, Subaru? Catharsis is something I don't really see often enough in Isekai, and when it's done right, like in Re:Zero and Shield Hero, it's a refreshing take. The reason being that it gives characters flaws to overcome. Without a challenge, a protagonist can just breeze by and never have to face immediate danger. That's why Kirito, for all of his dual-wielding power, is the primary subject of ridicule in the genre. Not to say he has character arcs, but aside from stuff like PTSD, which is an even more overused trope for characters, we don't see the faults of his personality. I could see potential in making Kirito a hopeless romantic or something resembling a real person instead of a wet cloth, but I can't. And if he is supposed to represent the everyday ideal gamer, then there is more to the problem than the game trying to kill you. What's worse is that Sword Art Online Abridged actually made him a far more intriguing character in their version, which doesn't help the real one, even by proxy. But the real heart of the problem is something that the main character stands on top of. The world they are transported to, and video games as a focal point, are just boring. Despite my love of Konosuba and my appreciation for Overlord and Re:Zero, they are heavily reliant on video game culture, mechanics, and magic. With pop-up screens, health bars, and more, the gimmicks that gave Isekai its identity just don't work anymore. Every town looks the same, every cave looks the same, and every magical ability feels the same. Thus, many of the fantasy worlds in this genre give out a strange aura of hollowness, almost like it was copy and pasted from an Isekai world spreadsheet. And maybe that's because an author's interests are getting in the way of quality storytelling. Therefore, some series can have spots of total whiplash, where the seriousness of the story is way too overplayed, making the sillier bits seem like they came out of nowhere. And despite being set in the rules of roleplay gaming, it can quickly fall apart and dump raid-sized plot conveniences that break the immersion. Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody and our favorite meme to pick on, Sword Art Online, are the progenitors, and even Overlord and Log Horizon are somewhat guilty in this category as well. Self-indulgent, too complicated to follow sometimes, and that bends the rules of writing techniques to give our main heroes more access to be bland or uninteresting. That is why I appreciate Isekai that they do the approach I think needs to happen. Either they take the fantasy to our world, or they make a new world, devoid of video game elements. Recreators, The Saga of Tanya the Evil, Drifters, and The Devil is a Part-Timer are series that take place in either alternate universes or time-shifted period pieces. And there are some that go the anti-route and bring the other world to our world. What makes these anime good by comparison is that we are witnessing unfamiliar territory. The no man's lands and battlefields of a magical World War-esque universe makes for a fascinating look at strategy and war plans, with a blonde lolly killing soldiers left and right. Taking historical figures and putting them in the world of elves and mythical creatures breathes an air of eccentricity with a hint of coolness. Or look at Recreators. Seeing a writer's fictional hero come to life and battle in the real world against other heroes of different mass media genres is by many means the hypest shit you can see, which baffles me to the core as to why no one's talking about it now. And even No Game, No Life, despite having video game lingo and pop culture references, is set in a world determined by mind games and other assortments of challenges. The characters have to use their wits to defeat their opponents, and yeah, it's still power fantasy chock full of ass pulls so large you can fit a train in, but it's a good ton of creative fun. And there you have it, being creative and fun with your project. Viewers aren't too comfortable to latch onto fresh ideas, and I can understand completely why more of the same is coming out. It's easy to make stories of escapism and wish fulfillment because they have been around since the time of Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland or the Chronicles of Narnia. It's difficult enough as it is to write a story set in the confines of video games without coming off as too ostentatious. But at the very least, make the world you are reincarnated in or transported to feel imaginative and endless. Have a goal set, but make the journey to that goal exhilarating. That's why I love Konosuba so much, despite its world looking like everything else. The wacky misadventures of Kazuma, Aqua, and the rest are much more memorable than other isekai anime because the situations they get into are stand out, like a giant moving fortress that destroys everything in its path, or slaying hordes of vicious and delicious flying cabbages. It's made for a laugh, but it's an immediate eye catcher. On top of having great character designs and animation that takes full advantage of being both a fantasy and a comedy. It's so good at what it can do for an isekai that maybe I should do a video on it. Wink wink. Reincarnated as a slime does this almost down to a science, and finds an entertaining and imaginative balance between being goofy while also being warm and charming. It's being hailed in the community as one of the best isekais in years, and I don't doubt it. Plus, it helps that the show knows how to turn tropes around as long as it can lead to a good time. There are still things that can come with being set in video game environments. It just takes a lot of energy and time to write something that isn't recycled or established, and Slime is one of the few that can do it. As for the Shield Hero, as I read a little bit into the light novel material, despite the anxieties I have with it, it's at least provided a good setup and memorable events to look back on. Despite their differences, the four heroes had to find a comfortable medium if they are to save this alternate universe. It's only deep-rooted conspiracies and blatant lies from forces opposing them that force each other apart, especially with our protagonist having to find a happy middle ground in his emotional journey. But it doesn't go too serious. There are still a lot of oddball things like devil balloons and obscenely ridiculous bird monsters that balance itself out. Trust me, it does get better, and you will find it to be pleasant to keep your attention. And if you are insistent on isekai shows that want to get out of indulging gamers' egos, then if you can step out of your comfort zone and watch now and then here and there, you can find an undisputed isekai gem that explores gray morality in a world as devoid of sanity and heart. Its creativity comes from its descent into a character's psyche and how they change when introduced to the ugliness of war, poverty, and child exploitation. Despite not being your typical modern age isekai escapist plot, it's really good. And I'm just using these couple of sentences as a plug-in to go watch this show. I'm dead serious, you will not be disappointed, even though it's technically out of print, that kind of blows. And maybe that is what the genre needs to stay relevant. It's not just using twists in the narrative or suspension of disbelief, it all comes down to the relatability a character has to us. The world that changes our protagonist's beliefs and morals, and how wonderful and evergreen the side characters and scenarios can be. I personally would much rather follow the adventures of this merry gang of idiots than I would some meek, overpowered stick in the mud in his harem. And I honestly find more opportunities to rewatch the universes of No Game No Life or Now and Then compared to the boring and trite RPG castles and fields that you see in the majority of fantasy shows. I have a love-hate to isekai, and these issues are going to keep piling up until writers eventually catch on and try to mix up the formula, or till they are eventually swallowed up by the next big trend. So, to conclude, how do you break the limits of isekai? Well, why not turn off your computer, step outside, and experience the real world for what it can truly offer. Thanks for watching, everyone, and my question to you today is, what are your opinions on isekai shows, and are there any you'd like to watch? Comment down below, and please subscribe and hit the notification button to see my uploads. It's your bra man, being transported into another world.